Coming up on today's show, we are going to talk trades as we have a little bit of a break between joint practices and the Browns preseason game against the Eagles. So I thought today would be a good day to discuss two trade rumors slash ideas I've seen floated out there that I thought we could break down on the show. So let's get started with this first trade coming in from Bleacher Report, who listed James Hudson as a trade candidate for the Browns. So Bleacher Report basically went through all 32 NFL rosters and found a veteran player on each team that could be moved or could be placed on the trade block going into the regular season. Now, Hudson, a former fourth-round pick out of Cincinnati, has had some good spot starts for the Browns, I would say. I mean, as a career swing tackle through 2 years, 29 games played, 7 game starts, I don't think Hudson has been a liability on the field. I don't think Hudson has shown us after 2 years that he could be someone who replaces Jack Conklin or Jedrick Wills down the line. But as far as fourth-round picks go, I think Hudson has been more than serviceable. Now, this is what Bleacher Report wrote about this, saying, so why would the Browns make the 24-year-old available? Well, they already have a couple of decent starters in Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin, and they drafted DeJuan Jones in the 4th round, meaning they have plenty of offensive tackles on the roster. I do not hate the idea of trading James Hudson. I did not think I'd wake up today talking about trading James Hudson, but there are some good points to be raised. Now, you've got DeJuan Jones, another former 4th-round pick, who has been exceptional so far in the preseason, so that would make moving on from Hudson a little bit easier because you don't want to give good players away at a very important position. That's why the Browns love loading up on corners and tackles. But if you've got some good pieces in your farm system, why not test the market a little bit here? Hudson so far in his NFL career, overall PFF grade of 57.5. Like I said, he's not been spectacular. I'm not trying to sell anyone on that. But I think there are teams out there that James Hudson could start on. Right? I think James Hudson is a top 64 tackle in the NFL, right? Of all left and right tackles in all 32 teams, I think James Hudson could start on a handful of teams. And so I wouldn't be shocked if one of those teams give the Browns a call, especially if a team suffers an injury in the next 2 preseason games and they look around the league going, you've got James Hudson as your offensive tackle 4 behind Wills and Conklin. You look at the depth chart and now you toss in DeJuan Jones. You're not going to even use him as a swing tackle this year, right? You have DeJuan Jones for that. He's been awesome so far. Can we get Hudson off your hands? I don't think the Browns would be heavily opposed to this if a good offer came across the wire. And like I said, when you have DeJuan Jones, who has been a preseason star so far, it makes the idea of trading Hudson a lot easier and a lot more digestible because, well, Jones has been maybe my favorite player this preseason outside of like DTR, Deshaun Watson, or Elijah Moore. And those are all quarterbacks and wide receivers. It's not easy for a rookie tackle to get eyeballs on him. There's just not a lot of things they can do that pop off the screen because usually their job goes unnoticed, right? They block the guy in front of them. The wide receiver goes down. The quarterback throws the ball to him. And no one really notices that the quarterback had an extra second to throw it because their tackle kept the defensive end away from them. So trading a good swing tackle away is risky, and I can understand hesitation to move on from a good player like Hudson when you've had Jack Conklin miss time as of late, and Jedrick Wills has had his fair share of ankle injuries so far in his NFL career. But if those two guys are healthy, and you like what you have in DeJuan Jones, and you're looking at Hudson like, we definitely don't want to move on from you. We want you on our roster because you're a good football player and we're in the business of getting good football players on our team, then sure, you keep him. But if the Browns take a good hard look at their draft capital for 2024, without a first rounder, that still belongs to Houston. You have a second, you have a third. No comp picks coming over after the Kwesi Adofo-Mensah hire with the Vikings. That leaves you with a second, a third, a fifth. You move down from some picks to get guys like Darius Smith. So now you have 2 6 and 2 7s. Man, if the Tennessee Titans pick up the phone and call the Cleveland Browns and say, hey, can we give you a 6th rounder because our starting right tackle, Nicholas Petit-Frere, got suspended 6 games for violating the league's gambling policy? Maybe the Browns go, why not pick up an extra third day pick and try and bundle some of those draft picks together, move up in the draft, and walk away with a second, a third, and 2/5. And all things considered, that's not a terrible draft haul. So I wouldn't be too opposed to this deal. But let me know what your thoughts are. Would you do this trade? It's definitely scary moving on from what I think is a good offensive tackle, and that is one of the most important positions in football. So you can never have too many good players at that spot. But also, if he's going to be your fourth tackle off the bench or fourth tackle in the depth chart behind Wills, Conklin, and Jones, and someone wants to give you a draft pick for a guy that might not be on this team long term after the selection of Jones, maybe you take the opportunity and you run with it. Now, if a trade does happen, you will be the first one to know if you are subscribed. Join one of the fastest growing Cleveland Browns YouTube channels in all the land by hitting that sub button down below. Now, let's talk about another trade, this time someone coming in instead of going out, and that would be running back Michael Carter. So he has loosely been mentioned in trade circles, rumors, buzz, whatever you want to call it, after the Jets signed Dalvin Cook. Now, the former fourth-round pick out of UNC is currently RB3, running back 3, on the Jets' depth charts behind Breece Hall, who is expected to be coming back soon, and now Dalvin Cook. So I could see the Jets making him expendable, right? They did that with Elijah Moore after they went out and got Allen Lazard in free agency and Randall Cobb. All of a sudden, Elijah Moore wasn't going to be seeing the field a whole lot. So they flipped him for some picks, and what if the Jets do the same with Michael Carter, and they've already got the relationship down between the Browns? Now, Michael Carter, here are his stats through 2 seasons in the NFL. He hasn't gotten a ton of playing time as far as like starts go. He's played a lot of games, but just not as a primary back. He took over after Breece Hall went down last year, but he really wasn't much good. I mean, you can see his average went down 0.8 of a yard from 4.3 to 3.5, despite playing more games and not getting as much carries, but the yards went down, the touchdowns went down. For what was a good opportunity for Carter to showcase himself once Breece Hall got hurt, he really didn't do a whole lot with that opportunity. But before we talk more about Michael Carter, I think the conversation should really start with this guy, Jerome Ford, right? Where does Jerome Ford stand with the Browns? I'm still not very sure. It's a little bit murky just because it's unfortunate that he suffered an injury during training camp this year because he was someone that we needed to see a lot of. And I wonder if the Browns go, we needed to see Jerome Ford because we're taking no chances this year. And we don't know exactly what we have in him. We've got a good idea, but he didn't play a single preseason game thus far. He's gotten hurt in training camp with a hamstring injury. And Andrew Berry has shown he's taking 0 chances this year. Meaning if there is a spot where he can upgrade at the roster and mortgage some picks or some salary cap space down the line for it, he's doing it. See Zadarius Smith. He already signed an edge rusher in Okoronkwo, but he saw an opportunity to get better still. And then he traded for Smith. So I would not be shocked if Andrew Berry goes, hey, I wanted to see more of Jerome Ford in this preseason. I wanted him to prove me right that we did not have to go out and sign another running back. But unfortunately, I haven't seen enough from him. And so I'm not going to go into the season with a big question mark at RB2. And thus, if something were to happen to Nick Chubb, we don't really know what we have in our backup running back. I honestly think that no move will be made at the running back spot until the Browns are forced to make a move. Meaning as long as Nick Chubb is healthy and he is grinding away and he is picking up chunks of yards and they don't really need a backup running back to have a huge role, they'll keep going with what they have. But the moment something does happen at 24, and knock on wood, that does not happen, well, maybe the Browns pick up the phone immediately and go, hey, we were fine with Jerome Ford as an RB2 in an offense that didn't give the RB2 a lot of looks. But since he's moving to that RB1 status, we're just not ready for him to have the lion's share of the workload. We at least want to bring someone in to lighten the workload a little bit for him and balance things out and get a 1-2 punch down until Chubb could return. So I think that's ultimately what's going to happen with the Browns. But Andrew Berry, the guy is an addict to trades. Make no mistake, so don't be fooled if Blockbuster Berry comes out and makes a big-time move. So pick a running back for me, Jerome Ford or Michael Carter. Just type the initials for the player you think the Browns should have at the RB2 spot. I'm going to stick with Ford, because I don't think Michael Carter has really shown you that he's any better. The guy averaged 3.5 yards per carry last year. It's one thing if Michael Carter put together a really good season, but he's just buried on that depth chart like Elijah Moore. Sure, I can rally behind that. But who's to say that Michael Carter's any better than Jerome Ford, and you'd be giving up a draft pick for him? So for that reason, I'll stay still and I'll go with Jerome Ford until something happens and the Browns find out what they have in Ford and they don't think it's worthy of him being the RB1. Then you go make a move. But for now, I think you are patient and you stay still. Let's pick a card to wrap up the show. We've got Jake Chipper behind the camera today. Chip, which card do you want to go with?
Give me the 3 of diamonds.
3 diamonds. That's a good pick.
3 of diamonds.
That hits a lot. I'm going to go with the Jack of Spades. 8 of Hearts. 8 of Hearts. Well, that will do it for us on today's show. We will see you guys tomorrow for our Browns-Eagles watch party. So make sure you tune in and have a good rest of your day.